The question is that the words proposed to be omitted stand part of the question, and I call the member for Corangamite.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would like to say to the member for Mackellar, thank you for your speech, and I would also like to note that on this side, we do not wish to seek division on this issue. We wish to work with the government and to come up with solutions that ensure that we become a global leader in recycling and waste and making it possible to make more jobs and growth in that time. So thank you. Look, but Deputy Speaker, I do rise to address the waste and recycling bills before the House. Labor will support these bills, but it must be said they do not do a great deal to advance our nation as a waste and recycling leader, nor do they provide a foundation for thousands of new jobs in a sustainable industry, an industry that is just champing at the bit to convert waste into valuable resources and commodities. With the right vision, with the right incentives, rebates and procurement regulations, we could see massive industry investment, councils contributing their waste and a renaissance in regional manufacturing in areas like mine in the electorate of Corangamite. Instead, these bills are a missed opportunity, and true to Morrison McCormack form, this legislation is more about the spin and less about the substance. Now, Deputy Speaker, I am incredibly fortunate to represent one of the most beautiful parts of Australia. From the Golden Plains to parts of Geelong, the Otways, Bellarine Peninsula, Surf Coast and towns along the Great Ocean Road, Corangamite is nothing short of incredible. People in my community are proud of our environment. They're proud of our magnificent coastline, its waterways and our iconic surf beaches. They want to look after our environment and, like me, they are passionate about recycling. They also know there is too much plastic in our oceans, impacting on our marine life and, in turn, our own consumption. Frustration at the current recycling and waste crisis. Frustration with a federal government that has been dragged kicking and screaming to act. And frustration with the many missed opportunities we've had over the past 7 years of the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison government to turn waste and recycling into jobs and opportunities for our regions. Recycling of waste into useful resources makes absolute sense. It's good for jobs, it's good for our economy and it's good for our environment. Since China and other key countries stopped taking our plastic and other waste in 2018 to 19, the failures in our system have been laid bare for all to see. Many people I speak to in my community have lost faith in our recycling and waste system because they now know that so much of our recycling goes into landfill. We know that Australia lacks the ability to sustain a domestic recycling market that will protect our environment and meet the expectations of the community. Right now, we only recycle 12% of plastics and 58% of waste in total. Most of the remaining materials end up in landfill. As the co-convener of the Parliamentary Friends of Waste and Recycling, I find it unacceptable that there is now less capacity to recycle plastic in Australia now than there was in 2005. Some experts have argued Australia will need to increase its local plastic reprocessing capacity by 400% in order to effectively repurpose our own waste into useful and valuable resources. It says everything about the Morrison-McCormack government that it took a ban on imports from China and several other key nations for them to finally act. But their actions are short-sighted at best and show little comprehension of what is truly required to deliver a world's best practice national waste and recycling program. The Morrison-McCormack government doesn't seem to understand the urgency. We should not be exporting gas, plastics, tyres and paper for recycling. We should be cleaning up our own mess right here in Australia. In this challenging setting, I would like to acknowledge the excellent work being undertaken by Barwon Water, servicing my electorate of Corangamite, with all of the G21 councils towards transforming the region's organic waste into renewable energy and other recycled materials. This is a fantastic, exciting project that shows vision and commitment. But such local initiatives, while commendable, are not the answer to our national recycling crisis. Now, the bills before us would introduce a ban on the export of certain waste materials and establishing a new licensing and declaration scheme. It would also replace and slightly update existing product stewardship laws. These are welcome changes, but as I've already said, they are woefully underdone. If we are to become a leader in this field, the government must stop focusing on voluntary schemes. It must introduce meaningful recycling targets, and we must work with industry to produce less plastic packaging, less products that cannot be recycled. These bills provide no constructive plan for the future. In contrast, Labor has a proud track record on recycling and waste. Labor in government created a national waste policy, establishing a national waste reporting process and introducing the Product Stewardship Act 2011. This was a major step forward in developing a regulatory framework to encourage responsible waste management in partnership with industry. But these measures were taken 9 years ago, and it was only meant to be the beginning of reform that has stalled dismally under those opposite. Labor believes that recycling is an enormous opportunity for Australia. Recycled goods can be turned into products that generate employment, that can reduce landfill and support regions like mine. I truly believe that better recycling could be a game changer for my region and our nation. Deputy Speaker, for every 10,000 tonnes of waste recycled, 10 jobs are created. We are in the midst of the Morrison recession. A horrifying number of Australians have lost their jobs. The queues outside Centrelink that we've seen this year are a national tragedy. As we come out of the COVID pandemic, the government must exploit every opportunity available to create more jobs locally, including those from recycling. In this federal budget, the government has set aside just $10 million for growing Australia's waste and recycling capacity. This will do little to see plastics turned into fence palings for council work, or to see recycled rubber in council footpaths and roads, or to see green organics composting on our local farms. There is so much opportunity for recycling and waste to support jobs and new industry here. But the federal government needs to lay the foundation to make this happen. Real outcomes require real investment. We need real leadership to provide confidence for industry investment. We need real leadership that enables local government to embrace waste and recycling on a massive scale right across Australia. And we need real leadership on recycling incentives, rebates and rules around procurement at all levels of government. Deputy Speaker, state and local governments in my areas are waiting for the government to step up. The G21 Regional Alliance is a group in my community which represents 5 local councils, including the Colac-Otway Shire, Golden Plains Shire, City of Greater Geelong, Borough of Queenscliff and Surf Coast Shire. These councils have formed a united front and are working with the Victorian Government on reforming curbside recycling to better sort waste, recycling and organics. But the absence of a federal government with a proper plan for waste and recycling, including financial and legislative support, means it is going to be so much harder for councils, industry and groups like G21 to manage this crisis and embrace constructive solutions. I've previously spoken out in the House and in my electorate about the potential for my region to become a national waste and recycling hub. We have potential sites, investors and numerous existing manufacturing technologies who have come to me and asked me to help them, to do more, to enable the creation of a recycling hub quickly. If only this government would get behind this as a national priority. This solution would result in hundreds of new jobs for my region. It would help suffering tourism visitation to give them an opportunity, a struggling university sector and a lack of confidence in our economy due to COVID-19 and mounting debt. Deputy Speaker, people in my community want to build with recycled materials. They want to work with recycled materials and they want to buy recycled materials. They do not want to see massive amounts of hard waste end up in landfill. And importantly, they want our oceans and our waterways to be free of plastics. Australia has a real opportunity to become a leader in waste and recycling, but the Morrison government is failing to drive reform. It is failing to drive a robust framework that creates stakeholder confidence. It is in failing to invest in job-creating opportunities that come with recycling of waste. And ultimately, this government is failing our environment. The people of my electorate want to protect our beautiful environment, our beautiful, precious coastline, our marine life, our waterways and our oceans. I urge those opposite to go beyond the media release masquerading as legislation and do more, much, much more to address this important, crucial issue. My region has the skills, the workers, the assets and the will to step into the future. The missing piece, is a federal government with a vision to make it happen.